Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Rama Kunja Bihari Jaya Rama Jaya Rama Rama Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, part number 1. This is chapter 4. And today, studying 18. Jnanam Param Sva Atma Rahaha Prakasham Provacha Tasmai Bhagavan Samagram Api Shamam Naha Granaya Grahanaya Bharataha Vada Agya Agya Anjasa Yat Vrijinam Tarema Jnanam Param Svatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Apikshamam no Grahanaya Bhartar Vadanjasayad Vrijanam Tarema Jnanam Bharang Svatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Apikshamam no Grahanaya Bhartar Paranjasayad Vrijanam Tarema Jnanam Param Svatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Apikshamam no Grahanaya Bhartar Varanjasayad Vrijanam Tarema
Anambaram Svatmaraha Prakasham
Jnanam Param Svatmaraha Prakasham
Bhavachakasmai Bhagavan Smagram
Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Apikshamam no Grahanaya Bharta
Apikshamam no Grahanaya Bhartar
Padam Jisayad Vijinam Tarem
Padanjasayadvrijanam tarema.
Jnanam param satmara prakasham
Jnanam param swatmaraha prakasham.
provachakasmai bhagavan samagram
Provachakasmai bhagavan samagram.
apikshamam no grahanaya bharto
Apikshamam no grahanaya vartar.
vadanjasaya trijinam talema
Padanjasayad vrijanam tarema.
Jnanam param swadaraha prakasham
Jnanam param svatmaraha prakasham.
Vachakasmai bhagavan samagram
Provachakasmai bhagavan samagram.
Apikshamam no grahanaya bhartar
Apikshamam no grahanaya vartar.
Vadanjasaya vrijinam tarema
Vadanjasayad vrijanam tarema.
Jnanam param swadmaraha prakasham
Jnanam prakasham.
provachakasmai bhagavan samagram
Provachakasmai bhagavan samagram.
apikshamam no grahanaya bhartar
Apikshamam no grahanaya vartar.
vadanjasaya vijinam tarema
Paranjasayar vrijanam tarima.
Jnanam param swatma raha prakasham
Jnanam param svatmaraha prakasham.
Provachatasmai bhagavan samagram
Provachakasmai bhagavan samagram.
Apikshamam grahanaya bharta
Apikshamam no grahanaya vartar.
Vadanjasaya vijinam tarema
Vadanjasayar vrijanam tarima. Jnanam, knowledge. Param, supreme. Sva Atma, own self. Rahaha, mystery. Prakasham, enlightening. Pravacha, said. Kasmai, unto Ka, Brahmaji. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Samagram, in sum total. Api, if so. Kshamam, able. Naha, unto me. Grahanaya, acceptable. Parthaha, O my Lord. Vada, say. Anjasa, in detail. Yat, that which. Vrijinam, miseries. Tarema, can cross over. Translation. My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji. Purport. A pure devotee like Uddhava has no material afflictions because he engages constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. A devotee feels afflicted without the association of the Lord. Constant remembrance of the Lord's activities keeps the devotee alive, and therefore Uddhava requested that the Lord please enlighten him with the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam as previously instructed, to Brahmaji. Maharaj, we would be blessed to hear from you. Thank you. So this is nice. The first thing that struck me here was that the proper way to request a superior, which is an art not very commonly known to Westerners or to those that aren't familiar with the Vedic culture, I should say. So the way that Prabhupada writes the translation, my Lord kindly explained to us. So he addresses the personality, which in this case is the Lord, Krishna himself, and he says, kindly explain to us. So he makes a request in the form of a statement with the word there, kindly, pleasant, some in a submissive way, if you think us competent to receive it. So then he qualifies it, or he says that your opinion or your blessings, your perspective about us is what's more important than my perspective. So he says, of course, when we ask somebody, that is the mood that we're trying to embody, is that we care more about what they have to say than what we think. But here, Prabhupada describes, and we can go into the Sanskrit to see where we find it exactly, but that he's saying, if you think we're competent to receive it. So we're asking knowledge from the superior, but then we're also saying that you determine my qualification to actually understand it, right? So he's not even assuming that he's competent to receive the information about the topic. He's specifically stating that I may be unqualified, so you determine my qualification and I'll accept it either way. If I'm competent to receive it, then you can please explain. So this is really nice. So what does he want to know? Well, he's asking perfect questions and he's going to receive perfect answers. The transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself. So this is stated in the first canto, that there's the perfect questions and the perfect answers that are about the topics of Krishna. So Sutta Goswami is very pleased when he hears the sages asking questions, 6 main questions, which start off the Krishna Katha between the sages at Naimisharanya and Sutta Goswami, headed by Shonaka Rishi. The sages headed by Shonaka Rishi are asking Sutta Goswami. And that brings about this remembrance of Srimad Bhagavatam, which culminates in the activities of the Lord, which actually keep the devotee alive. And actually, the sages at Naimisharanya, why were they assembling? They were assembling to do this yajna of remembrance, and to there was some fear that the Kali Yuga is approaching, and where has religion gone now that Krishna has left the planet? And so then, just like this purport states, that constant remembrance of the Lord's activities keeps the devotee alive. So the sages, they gather to do this hearing and chanting yajna, the Shravanam Kirtanam, which we also get to do every day, every moment, if we please, right? If we desire to please the Lord, then we'll constantly remember the Lord's activities, and that actually keeps us alive. So from hearing, then we do also chanting. We heard one devotee recently describing that there's also some more detailed aspects of hearing, actually, that come kind of between hearing and chanting, glorifying the Lord, like contemplation, recollection of the information which was heard, contemplation of that information, reflection upon that information, and then one can recite that information in a type of a practice, and then one can glorify the Lord when it's imbued with the realization, right? And that's stated also, that process or that status of kirtan is described also in the beginning stages of Srimad Bhagavatam, where I think at this point, the verse speaks about Shukadev Goswami, that he is now glorifying or reciting the Bhagavatam after he has assimilated it and realized it based on what he had heard. So that's a type of a very glorification. In the devotee days, Prabhupada speaks how it's not that Bhagavatam spoken by Shukadev Goswami is so perfect because it was exactly the words verbatim that his father told him, but rather that he spoke from realization and had assimilated it without changing any of the message. And so then he spoke that, and it actually became sweeter, just like a parrot who nibbles at a fruit. That fruit takes on even a more delicious flavor, sweeter flavor. So Uddhava wants to know the same information that was spoken to Brahmaji about Krishna himself. And we studied those seed verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Lord Krishna is actually speaking to Brahmaji, and he states that you should search everywhere and anywhere at all times in all places for the absolute truth. Anything that is not connected to me should be known as Maya and so forth. So this is nice because Uddhava, you can see the quality of education that Uddhava has received because he knows that Brahmaji was instructed by Lord Krishna himself at the beginning of the universe. And he's saying, I want to know that same thing that you told to Brahma. So this is the type of attitude of the devotee. He is he's like a honeybee collecting sweet nectar from the lotus mouth of the devotees. So he had heard previously about a very tasty subject, transcendental subject about what Lord Krishna had told to Lord Brahma. And he is asking Lord Krishna himself, I want to know that too. So this knowledge has to be received in parampara. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsheo viduhu sakalene hamahata yogo nashta parantapa. It's received in disciplic succession. And we're very fortunate that we have the unbroken chain available to us to learn this information. Srila Prabhupada is perfectly presenting this science of the knowledge of God. He presents the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna himself, as well as so many incarnations, the boar incarnation, fish incarnation, Vishnu, wonderful devotees, Narada Muni, so many sages, wonderful pastimes, fully transcendental activities that are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he's making sure every step of the way that it's as it is according to the parampara, his predecessors, and as it is, he puts it in such a way that it remains as it is for us who have no knowledge of Vedic culture, no education, no humility, no, all these qualities that make for a proper disciple. Still, Prabhupada is so expert that he presents the information as it is in such a way that we understand it as it is. That's a very special quality of Srila Prabhupada. That his writing is so valuable because he says things that just so we can understand it. So those are just some notes about this. It's stated here that pure devotee like Uddhava has no material afflictions because he constantly engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So I was hearing in the Adi Leela, chapter 7, that is where Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking with the Mayavadi sannyasis, and he's describing to them why he's doing the Sankirtan Yajna. And he quotes what his spiritual master had told him about chanting and dancing, and how that constitutes the only way to actually achieve self-realization in this age. And additionally, his teacher told him that as soon as one chants the holy names of Krishna, then he gets some experience of this bhava. And this bhava stage is transcendental emotions. Now we can understand for us, it's a type of a drop, right? We get a little taste of something different, but that's the higher taste that keeps us alive when we hear and chant. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually describing very politely, very sweetly to the Mayavadi sannyasis who actually brought him, called him to their assembly so that they could actually correct him to follow the Vedanta according to the Shariraka Bhashya. Bhashya means commentary. Shariraka Bhashya means the commentary given by Shankaracharya, which is completely a Mayavadi interpretation, which actually Mayavadi is described by Prabhupada in those purports, meaning that they see Krishna and his body and his activities as Maya. And they see devotional service to that person as Maya. That's why they're called Mayavadi, which means they actually consider everything is Maya. Of course, they say that this world is illusion and Brahman is reality. So the Vaishnava Acharyas, they understand this world is temporary, but it's meant for revival of the actual eternal occupation, which is devotional service to the supreme eternal person, Lord Sri Krishna, who's real, who's factual, who's a person who exists eternally, just like us. Not tom neme janadipa, right? That you, me, and all these kings, we all existed eternally. We'll never become one and we'll never stop being ourselves. Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita. So the Mayavadi sannyasis had called him actually to chastise him and correct him because he was a sannyasi. And he was a sannyasi from quite a elevated, what they call, some lineage of teachers, right? So he was from this lineage of sannyasis that were in the Mayavadi school, and he was vastly learned, incredibly beautiful, incredibly attractive, a very powerful personality. And the Mayavadi sannyasis, Prakashananda Saraswati, was thinking, what is he doing? He should be studying Vedanta with me. So he called him there. In spite of that ulterior motive, which is actually envious and offensive and against the will of the Lord, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks very sweetly with them. And he describes, my spiritual master has asked me to chant. And do not think that when I am doing this chanting and dancing, I'm actually forcing this ecstatic dancing. As soon as I chant the holy names, on the strength of the words of my spiritual master, I am actually forced to dance because his conviction and his order to do this Sankirtan Yajna, that this is actually the perfection of of my life, this devotional service, which is best executed in this fashion, not the dry speculative study of philosophy from persons who have no attraction to Krishna. So the reason why I'm bringing all this up is that the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's called Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam, that he is known to always have the name of Krishna on his lips. He was addicted to chanting Hare Krishna. And he was discussing one time with a devotee that he was chanting, he got the same disease to always be chanting. And the devotee who was always chanting was worried that he was going to be chanting in the restroom and it was offensive. So when he went into the restroom, he would hold his tongue because his tongue was addicted to vibrating the holy name of the Lord. So he would hold it. So Lord Chaitanya told him that there's no rules for this chanting, you know, and that's stated in the second verse of the Shikshashtakam, that there's no hard and fast rules. There's no hard and fast rules, but there are some like soft and slow suggestions, right? And like that. But the chanting of the holy name is all auspicious. Actually, the chanting of the holy name is called Maha Mantra. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra means the chanting of the holy names in that specific order, with Hare Krishna. But there's many mantras in the Upanishads and Vedic literatures, but the holy name of the Lord is called Maha Mantra. That is the most powerful way to deliver the mind. So specifically, this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the recommended, mantra for this age, which is recommended in Kali Santarana Upanishad. By this chanting, right, one can actually do remembrance, right? So when we first receive the holy name, then we can chant the holy name and we start to do it in accordance with the instructions of the spiritual master. We follow the rules and regulations given by the spiritual master. And then naturally the Lord or the holy name starts to reveal itself within our hearts. Prabhupada discusses all this in that part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the holy name spreads his glories automatically within our hearts. So then what's amazing about that is through that attraction to the holy name, then automatically attraction to Krishna Katha, right? Automatically erupts within the conditioned soul. He is actually, why? Because the order of the spiritual master is to chant the holy name. That's the basic instruction of the parampara, is to chant the holy name as given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada described many times that for the masses, philosophy is not so important to front load it. Though devotees who practice, in this Krishna conscious movement are very philosophically inclined. They become very philosophically inclined. And so we have a tendency to front load philosophy for persons who really just need to chant and taste Krishna prasadam, which is part of the learning process as a preacher. So, but Prabhupada described so many times, that's the process. Why? Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavid Grayam Indriyai. Sevan Mukhe Hijivado Swayam Eva Spuratyada. That you can't understand the holy name of Krishna, his activities, etc., unless you do some service. Sevan Mukhe Hijivado. And it starts with the tongue. Right? So that's the hearing, that's the chanting and the tasting, Krishna Prasadam. So from that one activity, right, then so many other things come. One starts to actually get an attraction. And you can, if you see this, if you suggest to people to chant, it happens on the plaza. As soon as they do their chanting, they may chant few mantras, few shlokas. Something changes. It's like their whole world is completely different. You can actually speak to them like a real person now. And maybe they don't buy books. Maybe they don't but something has changed. Their whole trajectory is completely different. But you can see anybody who takes up the chanting, like we have some friends at the college and things like that, they take up the chanting and then they like to come to temple more. And then they start coming to home programs with us. Then they start coming to lunch with us, right? So it's expanding. Krishna's taking over. Then they start wondering, okay, well, what is this? What are these books? At a certain point, they wake up and they say, hey, I better understand this science like these other people, like that. So the activities of the Lord are very high. They're very high. And the example set by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to speak about the activities of the Lord with intimate associates who are very elevated as well as he was. So persons like Ramananda Roy, Rupa Goswami, like that. Even with the Goswamis, Sanatan and Rupa, there was quite a bit of philosophy there, right? Which wasn't necessarily into the Leela yet, even, right? So, but for the general masses, then it was the holy name and the tasting of Krishna Prasadam. So the reason why I'm bringing up all of this is to basically highlight the exalted position of Uddhava and how the spiritual master, like, they're always absorbed, right, in the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. They're always absorbed in the loving pastimes of Vraj, right, of Goloka Vrindavan. That's their whole life and soul. And they're qualified. Though you can also see from Srila Prabhupada's example, he helped his disciples start to become qualified, right? And what's amazing is that Srila Prabhupada is certainly on that level to appreciate the Lord's pastimes without any material contamination. But in spite of being on that Uttamadhikari platform, he decided, out of his causeless mercy, and the order of a spiritual master, to come to the Madhyama platform, for the sake of his disciples, right? He would make distinctions. He would teach them how to discriminate, how to become devotees, how to understand the philosophy first, become qualified, become deserving, like that. But the pure devotees, they need to remember the Lord. So what's amazing is that the Lord, he came to this planet only, less than 600 years ago. And he was always chanting the holy names. And what's amazing is that we practice that meditation. When we're in the temple, we gaze upon the beautiful forms of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, Sri Sri Gaura, and we actually imbue our mantra chanting with remembrance of their transcendental forms. And Prabhupada discusses at another place in the Bhagavatam that simply by chanting, one will automatically remember that impression of the deities, after a certain amount of practice. Not that it's an artificial remembrance that one imposes while he chants, rather that from sincere and attentive chanting, then the form will actually manifest in one's mind. One will remember the form like that. So we start small, and gradually, our remembrance is blossoming. And that remembrance blossoms into so many wonderful leelas from so many scriptures, so many deities, and so many paintings that we've seen, and right? But at first, it starts small, just to attentively recognize that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the holy name of the Lord, is non-different than the Lord's form, qualities, his pastimes, his entourage, his paraphernalia, like that. So if we always remember that, and we give proper respect to the holy name, we follow the rules and regulations from the spiritual master, then we'll be qualified to have our remembrance blossom more and more and more, like that. Okay, thank you so much, devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.